Hello, all my JavaScript friends. This is TheVirtuoid, aka Mike Smith, and this is our factory game. I had originally intended for this video to be the final video, the wrap-up of video that basically says, oh, this is what went well, this is the things we could improve upon. But I went ahead and fixed a few things that I found during the playthrough. And again, I really appreciate you viewing the playthrough. I'm glad you survived. But after I fixed one of the issues, I was sitting there thinking, oh, this is worth a video. So there were two things that I fixed. The first one, as you can see on the screen here, is that when I click on the extractor in this particular case here, the information in the upper left-hand corner, and let's get to that screen here. This information was kind of going wonky, whether things went, where things went maxed, incorrectly and things like that. Once I did levels and stuff like that, that's now been pretty much fixed. I did find one more error, but I'm not going to worry about it until I can get that fixed a little bit later on. But the cool thing here is I also fixed the other issue that we were having, and that issue, let me zoom in even further so you can see it in action, is that one of the problems I had is when I pulled over a combinator during the playthrough, if I took a look at it this way, I really would have wanted the input, that the one's at the very top right now, to be on the bottom, and for the output to be on the right. Because if I rotate this and put the input on the bottom, but notice that the output is going off to the left, I can't get an input coming in from the bottom and have the output going to the right unless I flip the combinator. And so I thought, well, what would it take to do that? And I found that it was really, really simple. And so I'm going to show you what happens here. Is I can now hit the F key, ta-da, and it flips over. See, it's flipping. There it goes. Isn't that cool? It just flips on over. So now on pieces that you can actually flip, like this combinator here, you can press the F key and everything will flip. And so now I can either get the top and going to the right, or if I rotate, I can get the top and going to the left. Wonderful, wonderful thing. And I suddenly realized, well, what else can flip? Well, there's a couple of things that can flip. Let me just bring up well, actually, we'll keep it on the screen here. All the combinators need to flip. The purifiers don't need to flip because purifiers, in fact, let me just purchase a purifier here so we can see it on the screen here. The purifier, just the rotation will give me all the different combinations I possibly could want. So we don't need to rotate the purifiers. The extractors are the same way. There's only one output, so just the rotation will give us everything that we need. Now the conveyors are just a little bit different. If I got a straight, I don't need to flip a straight because if I can rotate, I can go all the different inputs, all the different starting vectors and all the different ending vectors can be representative. So I don't need to flip the straight, and I don't need to flip the cross intersection, because all the different inputs, all the different ins and outs of the conveyors from the top to the bottom and all that are completely represented just by rotating. However, with the curve, what I can do here now is that with this curve, which I used to call the curve left, when I would rotate it, and I called it the curve left because this is the original orientation and it was going off to the left, so I called it curve left. As I rotate it here, notice that I'm not able to get coming in from the top and going to the right, which is what the curve right was all about, unless I flip it. And once I flip it, bingo, it works like a champ. Now, with just one curve, I can get the input to either go to the left or go to the right, as you see here, or go to the left just by hitting the flip key. And the same thing goes with the T intersection. If I pop a T intersection inside there, I can rotate it normally, but this one here, I can go from the top and go to the right, but I can't go from the top and go to the left unless I flip it. And now I can go from the top and go to the left. So having the F key to be able to flip certain conveyors or flip all the combinators is now giving me everything I need to be able to have basically any kind of inputs and any kind of outputs. And in fact, what that has done here is, let me go to the store screen. is before we had 6 conveyors there. We had the straight, a curve right, a curve left, a T left, a T right, and a cross. We don't need the curve right or the T right anymore. We can just represent now one curve, one T, and just by flipping those, everything will work exactly the way we plan for it to work. So let's take a look at some code and show you how ridiculously easy it actually ended up being. Now, the big thing here is that when I have clicked, this is the stat inventory UI. So when I have clicked on a piece of inventory in the inventory stat, this creates what we call the inventory select, or it sets which inventory happens to be active. And I used to pass it just the key and the type, but now I'm flipping it a can flip option, and that can flip option is derived from this particular new piece of data that I got from world data. Let's take a look at world data. World data, the building can flip, is a combination of the conveyors, the combinators, and the purifiers and the extractors. So with all the conveyors, the combinators, purifiers, and extractors, let's take the combinator for example here. I can now go to a can flip, and I can tell each and every single one of them whether they are allowed to be able to flip or not. Extractors, for example, you'll notice here that all of them are false because I don't need for them to flip. The extractor, conveyor, combinator, I forgot the purifier. So let's get the purifier on there. There we go. So in the purifier on the can flip here, I don't need to flip those. They're all false. On the conveyor belt, however, we've got this. A couple of them are false, and a couple of them are true. Now notice I still have the comments out here where I said, oh my gosh, I don't need to have the curve right and the T intersection right. But I never just flat out delete things. I always comment things out first before I test it, just in case I need to back it out and I've screwed something up. So so you'll still see everything out commented here. So that will tell us whether we can flip it or not. So once we do the set active on the game event then sends that over to the world UI. And the world UI will then do a set active inventory. And that set active inventory will get the information from the inventory. And then we set our initial orientation to 0 and our initial flip to false. These are the 2 different values we're going to need. Before we just had orientation and the twirling around. Now we got the flip for false. And now the inventory here, the inventory within the active placement is going to give us whether we can flip it or not. Then all we have to do is create the F key. Yeah, that sounded horrible. So there's our input for the F key. We now got an on-flip routine. So if we go to the on-flip routine, we check to see if we have an active placement and if we can flip the active placement. And if we flip it, then it's really, really simple. All we do is we tell the ghost to flip itself. This is the that sounds all horrible. We tell the ghost to flip, and that tells Phaser.js to go ahead and flip it, and then we set the value of our flip within the active placement. So the active placement flip tells us whether we are currently flipped or not. Then at a certain point, we're going to do the pointer down to place it on there, and what that will eventually do is call the place option. And the place option, I've added this one little line right there. We flip it on the y-axis. Now, what about the x-axis? Well, we don't need to flip on the x-axis. We just need to flip on one particular axis. And I chose the y-axis because all of my starting vectors work off of the y-axis. And so by doing that, that allows me to be able to change just the starting vectors, and I don't have to worry about the ending vectors. Everything else remains the same. So everything just flips. So this has now flipped the image, and everybody's happy, right? Well, not exactly. Because here's the thing. We've now flipped the image, and we've, for instance, on a curve. In fact, let me just throw on the screen. Let's go back to the screen here real quick. If I take a curve and I put it on the screen there and I hit the flip key, first of all, the starting vector is x of 0 and a y of 1. Now the starting vector is an x of 0 and a y of -1. So by default, that's the vector. If we flip the image, but we don't tell the starting vector that it has changed, then it's just not going to work at all. So let's flip back over to our code and let's show you how that is done. Let's go to the combinator first. Both of them work exactly the same way, but we'll go to the combinator first. And within the combinator, when we do the constructor, that's where we do the orientation. That's where we set the orientation, and now we're setting the flip. So this is where we'd set the orientation, and we've got basically two different starting vectors, a starting vector 1 and a starting vector 2, in this particular case for the combinator. The starting vector 1 is the one that is by default coming in from the top, and that's what's going to get flipped when we flip it. So by doing that, basically that allows us now to be able to say, okay, if this combinator can flip, which in this case they all can, and if I am flipping, then change my starting vector to be the opposite. And that's it. That's all there is to it. There is nothing more to it than that. Same thing with the you won't see that inside the extractors, for example, because I don't have to worry about. Here's my starting vector right here for the extractor. I don't have to worry about it flipping, so I don't even put code in here to flip it. I just don't care. For the conveyors, it is exactly the same thing. And the constructor here, this is where I'm constructing, what my starting and ending vectors are for the straight, the curved left, the t-intersection left, and the x-intersection. And then all I have to do is, if I can flip it, we change the 0 starting vector, which for the t-intersection is going to be when it starts off the t-intersection. That's at the that's the very first one defined. Same thing with the curve. That's the very first one defined. And that's it. There is really nothing else. The only other thing that I did change was, let me pull it up here because I just realized I didn't have it, is inside the base. Remember, everything extends the base. The base has absolutely everything into it. I have now added a flip variable, and we do a set flip. And blah, 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 blah. Where is it? There it is, set flip. That's it. That's the only other thing I've changed in there. So everybody's got a flip variable. It's just, you can choose to ignore it. Like extractor here has ignored it. Purifier here, if we go to the constructor, has ignored it. But conveyor, has it ignored it? Nope. Because a couple of them can flip. Does the combinator ignore it? Nope, because every single one of them can flip. So I wanted to show you this particular one here because I thought this was a really nice solution to the problem that I had in trying to get all of these, or especially the combinator, to be able to flip. And then that also realized I can now get the conveyor belts to also flip, so I don't need to have two curves and two t-intersections. So that's all there is to this particular video. I'm going to fix that one final itty-bitty error inside the stat information, and then our next video is going to be the wrap-up, and we'll explore what went well and what could have changed. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at TheVirtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and keep on coding.